Welcome into another edition of Spits and Suds. So great to have you with us this offseason. I'm Gavin Spittle of 105.3 The Fan. As he joins us weekly, it's our NHL insider from EP Rinkside. I tell you guys, and so many of you have signed up for Shap Shots, and that's his Substack, and he does such a great job, has really, really interesting articles. A lot of times after the fact, we mention those articles, and he's all over the place. Of course, we're talking about actor from the Late Game movie and also author from We Win Here with our other Spits and Suds buddy, Steven Reserve. It is Sean Shapiro. How are you?
I'm doing really well, Gavin. I was telling you before we went live, we're kind of the last week of formal summer here. Kid goes back to school on Monday, and but happy to be talking Stars hockey right now.
So
I'm happy to be here.
When it gets chilly, do you put goalie pads on and walk your daughter to school?
No, I don't do that.
Okay.
I am excited not next week, but the following Tuesday. It's really fun. My daughter did kind of the learn to play hockey thing this past year, where it was just kind of like a couple drills and things on Sundays. And so she's going to play on her first team this year. There's an 8 and under girls team that she's going to play on, and there's going to be practices Tuesday. They're going to do games Saturday, and I've kind of volunteered to help coach with that. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited about that. That's something where I take lots of trips to the rink in my life.
Yeah.
But those are the most fun, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Future PWHL player. Absolutely.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. It really would. It would be awesome. Okay, I wanted to start with this article on NHL.com yesterday. NHL envisions regular season games in London, Germany, Switzerland, and that's coming from NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly, who is very vocal, and also mentioned London once again in the article, saying that the NHLPA, the players themselves, everyone really liked the London experience. So can you kind of take us why? I know every sport likes to do this. Just we'll see it in a couple of weeks where the first NFL game in Brazil, all these clubs are going global, similar to what the Premier League does as far as in the offseason, they do this amazing tour basically around the world. Give me your thoughts on what it does from the game and how much planning. And the other thing, and it's a 3-part question, how is the revenue made up for that?
Yeah, I mean, so to give you an idea, right, and obviously this is a perfect subject to talk about on the Stars podcast, because the Stars are going to go play in Finland this year, and they're going to play the Florida Panthers. And I believe, so there's also the NHL Global Series this year involves games to start. Who plays in those first games? I believe it's New Jersey and Buffalo. Let's look. I want to get this right. Let's see real quick. I believe it's New Jersey and Buffalo are playing in Czechia to start the season. So they've the NHL has done this global series before, and it's in the past it's been a little bit more heavily focused on places that have let's say are in the big 6 for hockey countries, right? Like if you think about the top 6 hockey countries in the world as far as medal count and world standing, it's Canada, the United States. That's where the NHL is, obviously, and then you get the Swedens, the Finlands, the Czechs. The Czechs are in there, and then obviously, and then Russia has its geopolitical issues right now, but Russia. So the NHL is now looking to kind of expand to those markets that aren't Finland and Sweden, getting to those places where you can grow the game to a larger audience of people where, hey, it's kind of getting here will help be part of the future for it. And the key kind of from a revenue perspective is the ticket sales do really well at these events because, Gavin, as you and I have talked about before, supply and demand. If you only got like, it's as much as you'd like to think they're making the tickets affordable, the tickets aren't going to be cheap for games in London because there's just 2 games. The demand is high and the supply is low, right? So the ticket prices tend to be can be pretty high, and then you also get a big chance for activation with international partners. That's another way money is made on those. The NHL has when games are in Finland, for example, there's a lot of NHL international partners that are going to be pumping some money into that to maybe get in front of an American audience, grow their audience with some other things. So there are multiple revenue streams that come in. I think it's great. I personally love when the NHL does this for regular season games. I think you just have to be smart about how you do it. And it's like I think London would be great because I think London is London in the UK is a space where I think hockey could do better. I think there's a couple good there is the I think it's called the British Ice Hockey League or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Can't remember exactly what it
Yeah.
was, but it's you got a couple players who have gone and played there. Played and the league goes into Northern Ireland too. Like I think it's there is a there's definitely growth of the game here for that, and I personally like it. And it's this was said by Bill Daly when the NHL is currently having their European Player Tour, so it's definitely obviously comes with some reasoning behind this conversation of where they are and talking about it.
Yep.
So I think it will happen in the future with these markets. They're going to keep pushing these global series games, and I personally like them because from a viewership perspective for you and I, Gavin, like the Devils and Sabres are going to play on October 4th. That's a 1 o'clock game on a
Yeah,
Friday. Now
the
I know
beauty.
people working 9 to 5 might not be able to like, but that's like I love having some opportunities like that. Like when the Stars play in Finland on November 1st. That's going to be a 1 o'clock game on a Friday. It's going to be a fun day to be like, you know what? If you're a Stars fan, you know what? Hey, take an early Friday off
Yeah.
work, go catch up with some buddies and watch some hockey at one. It's great. So I love what it adds overall to the viewership perspective for the league.
Yeah,
So.
we had the Australian preseason game last year, and then Brad Alberts was mentioning on Spits and Suds about they were going to do an exhibition game in China as well. The Stars were going to go to China. So it is fascinating to see. I am wondering from a player perspective, and I think the charter jets certainly help in this scenario as far as are the players given enough rest, go overseas, a lot of hype, you're playing in a different time zone, then you come back and you have to resume the NHL schedule. Have we seen enough evidence where, it's fine? Or, because I was thinking, wasn't it Nashville last year when they came back, they went on a little bit of a losing streak?
Well, so Nashville struggled at the start of the year. I mean,
Yeah.
Nashville played their first games there and then came over. I mean, I will say one of the more interesting comments I heard on this was last year, Detroit Red Wings coach Derek Lalonde talked because Detroit played in Sweden last year.
Yep.
And Lalonde said it was a really great experience for his team and everything like that. But it was a very interesting self-awareness of where Detroit is in the NHL standings right now. He said, I would not have wanted to do that if we were a contender right now. He said it's one of those where it is a tournament that it is a showcase that's great. And he was with Tampa when they won the cup he was with Tampa when they won the cup, but in that year they had played in Stockholm, I believe. Before they beat the Stars in the bubble, but before they had gone, they had played in the bubble, and he talked about how that was a big experience for them at the time. But he also talked about how they kind of got a little bit of a pass because they didn't have they had the long break, so it didn't really. But so there is some concern for some teams that if you go to Europe and you struggle, it can really disjoint a season. If you go and do well, it's great. And so I think there's a little bit of it's something I hadn't thought much about until Lalonde said it last year. He's like, I would not have wanted to do that in a year where we're considered a contender because of some of the risks.
Yeah.
So interesting thing. It's something I'd love to ask Pete DeBoer, probably a little bit closer to it. Just probably as we get to October, as we figure out as we start looking at the Stars kind of doing this. But that's something that I kind of thought about there. So.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I'm excited about is the added adrenaline, I guess similar to playing in a stadium series or playoff. Craig always talks on the program about different levels of play. There's preseason hockey, and you're still playing hard, but there are just different levels that you have to adjust through the season. And preseason, regular season, and then playoffs take a whole nother level. And I'm interested for the Miros and the Ropes. I mean, this is a dream come true playing in their home country at the highest level.
And the Stars also, the Stars could have been played in the Swedish Swedish one. They actually were given that option, but they were asked, do you want to go to Sweden or we're going to go to Finland the next year? And the Stars made the choice to obviously go to Finland with their ties to Finland. So it's something where the Stars have thought about where they stand in the hockey world, where their fan base is, and it was the right decision. And it's going to be a great atmosphere. I mean, they're going to be. I've been over there before, and I've seen an exhibition showcase that Miro and Rope and Essa all played in, along with Yuri Lettinen played in that one. A bunch of ex-Stars played in this showcase that I was over when I was over in Finland 6-7 years ago, or 5-6 years ago, whatever it was. And people love the Stars there. For those guys to get to play in front of their home, in their home country, in front of audiences that stay up late to watch them and everything like that, it's going to be a really nice thing, and it's going to be fun, and let's be honest, like, it's going to be just as great for Florida on the other side. I mean, you're playing against the Stars are a popular team in Florida. I mean, in Finland, but the other team that you're playing has the first Finnish captain to ever win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah, that's really cool. It'd be awesome if they honor Yuri Lettinen before the game because he's such a popular Finn and what he does for the national team as well.
Yeah. The only bummer about it from a Stars fan perspective is just because they're doing both games against Florida and Finland, Stars fans won't get to see the Stanley. Stars fans in Dallas won't get to see the defending champions in the building next season. So I don't like that part of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of a one drawback spot. But overall, it's hard to find other flaws with this.
Yeah. With the off season being as it is, a few months, and we totally got into free agent signings and contracts. We've talked a lot about that. Kind of in the distance, we haven't talked a lot about the run that the Stars were on, and specifically the power play issues that were late in the year. We saw it in the Western Conference Finals. So I guess my question is, with the Steve Spott, Pete DeBoer relationship, I don't want to get into that. They're very tight, and that's wonderful. But I guess my question is how long of a rope is going to be given, do you feel, this year? Because the talent is so rich as far as scoring ability, but yet the power play just didn't seem fruitful, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's blank slate start of the year. You're building a brand new power play. Joe Pavelski's gone. So you've got, just right off the bat, you got brand new building blocks. You got to figure out how, you got to figure out who fits in where. You got, is Thomas Harley gonna, like, so you got to kind of start from the ground up again. Like, everything kind of gets disheveled and you start over. And not really, like, I don't know how long of a leash Steve Spott has running the power play. I think it's a pretty long leash because I think part of it comes down to is Pete DeBoer is a big believer that it's up to the players sometimes to figure things out. And if you're Jason Robertson and Miro Heiskanen and Rope Hintz, guys who are going to be on that power play, it's on you to figure it out too. So it's a really good question. Like, I remember during the last season, you and I had a bunch of things where people would ask us and they'd be like, "Oh, it's a July question."
Yeah.
This one's an early December question.
Okay.
So
no, it's great. That's great. I'm just interested to see if they'll come out with anything unique or different. I mean, I know it's you can go team after team. It's basically the same thing, just, different tweaks, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how the Stars make the adjustment. And that's a great point by you with the absence of Joe Pavelski. All right, David Castillo and I the other night were talking after the Matty Beniers news, 7.14 per year on a 7-year contract. and we both agreed and wanted to get your thoughts. I thought this was a pretty good comparable to Wyatt Johnston, not as far as contract terms, Sean, but just player to player.
Yeah, I mean, that's like in a like when you look at that 2021 NHL draft, right? Beniers went number 2, and you look at kind of how things have gone. If you were to redraft that draft, Johnston goes number 1.
Yeah.
I think Matty Beniers is a good player. To me, I'm not as sold on him being the like. To me, Beniers is a like I look at I think it's good value for Beniers. Let's put it that way. I don't see Beniers as the number 1 center that you're like, okay, because we have Matty Beniers, we can win a Stanley Cup. I don't see Matty Beniers that way. I think Matty Beniers needs his Rope Hintz on the roster. He needs what Wyatt Johnston has around him to be successful. So similar players, like, I mean, Johnston has 106 points in 164 games. Beniers is just 3 points behind him, but 3 games more played. So they're going to be very closely linked for the rest of their careers. To me, Johnston, I think, is going to, they both have different areas of growth to go as well, where Johnston already has the technical side of the game down so well. And if you think about adding a little bit more creativity into Johnston game, that's where he wants to go. Where Beniers has some of those flaws that I think he needs to hammer down on some things to kind of fit the NHL. Because like, one of the big things about Johnston versus Beniers is this for me. And I want to make sure I have these numbers right as I pull it up. So like Wyatt Johnston rookie year, good year, 41 points, 82 games, right? During the 22-23 season. This past year, 65 points in 82 games, a 24 point rise, right, from one year to the next. Beniers' first full NHL season, 22-23, not counting his 10-game stint with Seattle at the end of 21-22, he had 57 points in 80 games. Last year, he had 37 points in. Last year, he had 37 points. He regressed a bit at 37 points in 77 games. Part of that is why Johnston's on a better team than Seattle, so you got to keep that into account. But to me, one of the big things about the NHL, and it's as guys figure life out, is you learn the NHL, but the NHL also learns you. And all of a sudden there's a book on you and people figure out who you are and everything like that. And even though 100-game sample size of who Wyatt Johnston is, he kept having success against the NHL.
Yeah.
Matty Beniers hit a bit of that kind of sophomore year 100-game wall where the book was out on him and he had to adjust and figure it out. And he didn't do that nearly as well as Wyatt Johnston did. So that to me is why I'm so bullish on Wyatt Johnston's future. Like I look at him and it's why he's going to be, I think he's only going to continue to get better. And I think Beniers is going to get better too, but I am not sold that Beniers is that number 1 center that Seattle is hoping he's going to be. So that's go.
I think
from
that's
Johnston's
I think that's really good, Sean, because I think kind of the thinking is I might have done Beniers on a bridge deal based on what you were talking about.
If you were Dallas, I think you would. I think the other thing is you have to figure out where your franchise is in the world, right? Like I think that's another important thing that people kind of have to take into account for. In Seattle, you need some, like, you're a young franchise, you do need some people to build around, right? Like think about how you do need some people to build around from a marketing, long-term, grow the game perspective, right? Like, so while a bridge deal probably for a more competitive team who already had the faces that you could build around, you probably would have been okay with the bridge deal. I actually don't mind Seattle doing the long-term with Beniers because you need someone to be the face of that franchise as kind of the new as kind of the like hey, we're new, the new shiny toy starts to wear off. So I don't mind it from Seattle's perspective. I also don't mind it because of where Seattle's long-term cap situation is. But from a Stars perspective, if Matty Beniers was dropped into the Stars situation, I would be looking at a bridge deal. So I think those factors come into play here.
Just to recap that 2021 draft, Owen Power went number 1, Buffalo. Matty Beniers, number 2. Mason McDavish for Anaheim was number 3. Sean mentioned Wyatt Johnston at number 23. The second round, number 47 for the Dallas Stars. Pick comes in. It's Logan Stankoven.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Stars probably, if you go back and redraft 2021, the Stars probably have 2 top 5 picks right now. It's definitely there's some other guys that are interesting with where they're going and everything like that. But yeah, it's a good. The Stars made out like gangbusters in that draft.
They did. You know, one of the other things that we were talking about the other night when we were talking about contracts regarding Wyatt Johnston and what they have to do with Jake Ottinger. Not me for it on Twitter says, just listening to the podcast, just finished listening. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Something you didn't speak to with Benn's contract ending and needing to re-sign Johnston and Ottinger is that they will need another Robertson contract signing. I just don't agree with anywhere because I said that to me, it would be a $3 to $5 million deal for Jamie Benn. That's just my opinion. I mean, because I kind of compared to what the Stars, and he might go elsewhere, but I looked at the Stars and Pavelski in his later years, different player, but at the same time, I could see the Stars with their cap situation saying, hey, we have $3 million, Jamie.
Yeah, I think it would be I look at it's now, so let me go pull up the exact number on it, but I look at the Patrick Kane deal to me is very much it's probably a bit rich for what Jamie Benn will get, but the Patrick Kane deal to me is probably the best comp because Patrick Kane is going to make $4 million base salary, and then he's got 2.5 potential in bonuses for a 35 plus salary. Patrick Kane is a better player than Jamie Benn right now, so let's take a little bit of a discount off that. But if you're talking and you look at what the Stars did with Joe Pavelski, I could easily see Jamie Benn at a $3.5 million base, $2 million bonus structure.
Yeah,
5.5 total. I think that's the market for Jamie Benn. Maybe he takes a bit of a hometown discount because the man loves Texas. He's gotten his citizen. I don't think he got his citizenship. I know it is green card. He and his wife got married this summer. She's an American, so technically that might make you a citizen. We'd have to get a citizenship expert on here. But moral of the story is Jamie Benn and his brother Jordy lives in Dallas in the off season too. The Benn family has essentially relocated to Dallas, so maybe there's a bit of a hometown discount to play the rest of his career with one team, but Jim Nill is not going to stiff him. I mean, Jim Nill's it's going to be the 3.5 to 5 range and things like that. That's the reality of fifth. So,
yeah. We have a year. I mean, every year it just seems like the Stars are having to juggle, and that's what happens when you're Western Conference finalist for 2 straight years. You're going to have to because you have players that are playing at a really, really high level. Did want to mention on your Substack, I love the stories that you tell, and one of the things that you talked about was you hearkened back to one of your old articles regarding Marty Turco, regarding how he became such a good puck handler because you were mentioning one of the prospects and how they are one of the better prospects you've seen in a while as far as puck handling.
Yeah, it was, if you go read the Substack, it was, I was going down essentially my role for over at Elite Prospects and EP Rinkside right now is pivoting more and more towards just doing goalie stuff, which I love, and it allows me to nerd out on some stuff. And so, Carter George is a goalie prospect for the Kings, and he's an elite level puck handler. If you dropped him in the NHL, he'd be probably a top 5 puck handling goalie right now in the NHL. That's how good of a puck handler he is. A lot of other work to do in the other parts of the game, but And it's hard not to watch a great puck handling goalie and think about how much Marty Turco revolutionized the position. And I know, obviously, Ron Hextall was the forefather of the puck handling goalie, and then Brodeur was in the '90s really was one of the best at it. But as far as technique wise, Marty Turco invented the grip that you see with how a goalie's handle the puck, with now how goalies flip the glove over to make passes and get control. And that's something it's called the Turco grip. And it's something that is will have forever changed how goalies handle the puck, and it's because Marty invented it while he was a Stars prospect playing in Kalamazoo, and then popularized it in the NHL. So yeah, go read that over at the Substack. That's actually I basically just took a chapter excerpt from my first book, 100 Things Stars Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die, which is thanks for the plug on that, Gavin.
Yeah.
The it's and it's interesting to think about like those little things in hockey history. Like I'm very much a hockey nerd in that way where I
Sure.
like learning how and why things happen. And one of the reasons how and why when you watch an NHL game, how a goalie handles the puck, a lot of the technique goes back to something that Marty Turco just invented while messing around as a prospect in Kalamazoo, Michigan with the Stars IHL team at the time. So it's uh it's always a fun thing to think about. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Two quickies for you before we go. One, WWE on Twitter did a because Jackie Redmond is also works for the WWE, very good as far as on hockey as well. And one of the things that she was doing behind the scenes was she interviewed Robert Luongo, and I thought that was super cool and talked about the Stanley Cup. And it was a really, really good interview. CM Punk, a wrestler, came in. He's a big Chicago Blackhawks fan. So they got into it in a good way, in a real way. And I just thought to myself, that's a cool expansion of the game, especially when Luongo was answering the question of, does it matter that you were a player or what you were as far as in Florida winning the cup? And he said, winning the cup is winning the cup. I would have loved to do it for the fans when I was playing, but this is amazing and a dream come true. So I thought that was really cool. So if people get a chance, and it did remind me how good of a goaltender he was. These sometimes, Sean, and you're, like you said, you nerd out. I love going back and hearing names of the past and say, wow, I forgot how good Thomas Vokoun was at one point. You know what I'm saying? Like just these names from the past that, probably don't get mentioned in circles. And I will always say one of the best live goaltending matchups I ever saw was that overtime matchup, San Jose, when Dallas went on to the finals, as far as the conference finals, and Marty Turco and who was the goalie in San Jose?
Nabokov.
Nabokov. Yeah. We're both
Evgeny Nabokov. We're gonna have to start clarifying which Nabokov we talk about because the Islanders, no, not the Islanders. It was the Avalanche drafted an Ilya Nabokov.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And I can't believe I forgot his name because I've talked about this for years when being at the game and just amazed that they had to check the replay twice. Not if the goal passed the goal line. I don't know if you remember this, Sean, but if the glove fully passed because the shots were so hard that they stopped. It was amazing.
Yeah. He was fun to watch at his peak, Nabokov. Like that's one of those, if you ever go back and you can find the tape from the Turco Nabokov duel from that game, it is fun to watch.
Yeah.
I when I wrote my book, I went through and watched a bunch of those old games, and there's some fun things to watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. So great cross-marketing effort there. And just a quickie, Sean, and I don't know if you know the answers. Is there any kind of penalty to Thomas Harley if he sits out camp, and does it get bigger? If we were, Jim Nill says, he's ours. I'm not worried as far as if it got into the regular season.
Penalty? Not really a penalty. I mean, just maybe time and rust to shake off.
Yeah.
We saw Jason Robertson did this a couple of years ago and then had a career year.
Yeah.
So it's
I was just thinking monetarily, does he lose any checks?
No, I think it's and even if he signs late, right? Like we saw, what was it? It was the Nylander thing a couple of
Nylander
years
in
back with
Toronto, yeah.
Toronto. Yeah, where basically the money just gets prorated. You still got the same amount of money. It just gets the cap hit just got higher for year one because of the proration of it and everything like that. So um it's to be honest with Harley, I know people are gonna freak out about it and everything. Like the minute he misses a preseason game or the minute he misses camp, then we can have a what's going on conversation. But unless he's not signed by October 1st, I'm not panicking at all. So
Okay. Okay. He is our NHL insider, the greatness of Sean Shapiro. Check him out at EP Ringside. Terrific. If you can sign up for his Shap Shots, where you get exclusive articles sent to you, they are deep dives and they are terrific. If you want to watch a hockey, as hockey is coming soon, check out the Late Game movie found on Amazon. His co-author will join us on, I think, tomorrow, Stephen Reserve, as we'll talk about some names going into training camp that we might not talk about on a regular basis and what we're expecting from them. So that's tomorrow on Spits and Suds. Am I missing anything? The book We Win Here. He's all over the place. At Sean Shapiro on Twitter. You will find everything at Sean Shapiro on Twitter. Always appreciate you giving Stars fans some of your time on a weekly basis in this offseason to fill them in on NHL and Stars news.
it's always, Gavin, you do a great job for promoting me and letting me do this and talk all this. It's fun. And I'm looking forward to having more and more conversations here. So this is always fun, man.
Well, it's awesome. I mean, we've been getting some more 5-star reviews, which is so cool. I'm blushing. And one of the things, as I say it over and over again, is people say, I love the people that join Gavin on the podcast. I take that as a full compliment because it's people like Sean, David, Robert, Leah Simakopoulos, Mike Heika, you heard recently. Just love the back and forth of the podcast. So that's super cool. And continue to spread the word. We really appreciate it. We're heading into the season. What's so cool is these off-season months, we're getting tremendous numbers. So it's just like a regular season for us as we make our way toward the regular season. Wow. Just, oh my goodness, what, 30, 45 days away? Who knows? It's coming up soon, and we'll be there for you. It's Spits and Suds on 105.3 The Fan. Have a great day, everyone.